Disclaimer. This video was created using AI assistance and tools. This video may be too scary for younger audience. Please take care, as oftentimes when you listen to the lost folklore, you may see odd things at the corner of your eye. Creatures, monsters, and spirits that seem to follow you around after listening to the folklore about them. Entry 003. The Eyes That Followed. In the heart of a quaint, picturesque town nestled between mist-covered hills, there stood an old mansion, weathered and abandoned. Locals whispered tales of its dark history, of the family who once resided within its walls, and the tragic events that befell them. But most chilling of all were the stories of the eyes that followed. Legend had it that the portraits lining the mansion's walls were cursed, their subjects condemned to an eternity of torment. No matter where you stood in the grand halls or winding corridors, the eyes in those portraits would follow you with an unnerving intensity. Some claimed to have heard whispers echoing through the empty rooms, voices pleading for release from their eternal vigil. Despite the warnings and the shroud of fear that enveloped the mansion, a group of curious teenagers decided to explore its secrets one moonlit night. Armed with flashlights and nerves of steel, or so they thought, they ventured into the decrepit mansion, their laughter masking their unease. As they crept through the dimly lit corridors, the portraits seemed to come alive, their eyes boring into the souls of the intruders. Uneasy whispers brushed against their ears, chilling them to the bone. But they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth behind the legends. Deeper into the mansion they ventured, until they reached the grand ballroom, a cavernous space filled with tattered curtains and decaying furniture. It was there, in the flickering light of their flashlights, that they saw her, a spectral figure gliding across the room, her eyes ablaze with a malevolent fury. Frozen in terror, the teenagers watched as the ghostly apparition approached them, her gaze piercing through their very beings. With a blood-curdling scream, they turned to flee, but it was too late. The eyes in the portraits had them ensnared, their every move watched and judged by the cursed souls trapped within. And so, the legend of the eyes that follow claimed its latest victims, their fates sealed within the walls of the haunted mansion for all eternity. As for the portraits, they continued their silent vigil, their eyes forever fixed on those who dared to disturb their restless slumber. As the teenagers attempted to flee the haunted mansion, their panicked footsteps echoed through the empty halls. In their desperation to escape the malevolent spirits and the piercing gaze of the cursed portraits, they stumbled over debris strewn across the floor. One of the teenagers, a young girl named Emily, tripped and fell, her flashlight rolling away from her grasp. As she scrambled to her feet, she felt a cold, clammy hand wrap around her ankle, pulling her back with a strength that defied the laws of the living. With a terrified shriek, Emily thrashed and kicked, but the spectral grip only tightened, dragging her towards the darkness that lurked in the shadows. Her friends watched in horror as she was pulled into the abyss, her screams fading into the eerie silence of the mansion. By the time they managed to escape the mansion's clutches and reach the safety of the outside world, Emily was nowhere to be found. Some whispered that she had become another restless spirit doomed to haunt the mansion's halls, her fate forever entwined with the cursed portraits and the eyes that follow. The mansion, known as Blackwood Manor, held a dark and twisted history that sent shivers down the spines of the townsfolk. Situated on the outskirts of a small, secluded town nestled deep within the dense forests of New England, Blackwood Manor stood as a silent sentinel, its imposing facade concealing secrets that dated back centuries. Originally built in the 18th century by the enigmatic Blackwood family, the mansion was a testament to their wealth and influence. But behind its grandeur lurked a shadowy past filled with tragedy and despair. Rumors swirled of occult practices and deals struck with otherworldly entities, staining the family's name with infamy. As generations passed, the Blackwood family fell into decline, their once majestic mansion left to crumble into ruin. Tales of strange occurrences and inexplicable phenomena began to spread, further cementing Blackwood Manor's reputation as a place of dread and horror. The surrounding townfolk whispered of disappearances and unexplained deaths, attributing them to the malevolent spirits said to inhabit the mansion's decaying halls. Despite numerous attempts to demolish the cursed structure, Blackwood Manor stubbornly remained standing, its dark influence seemingly impossible to eradicate. Over the years, the mansion became a magnet for thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts, drawn to its foreboding presence like moths to a flame. But few dared to venture beyond its threshold, knowing that those who entered Blackwood Manor risked becoming victims of the sinister forces that lay within. And so Blackwood Manor stood as a grim reminder of the horrors that lurked in the shadows, its secrets buried deep within its crumbling walls, waiting to ensnare unsuspecting souls in their web of darkness and despair. The last attempts to demolish Blackwood Manor were met with inexplicable and disastrous consequences, further cementing the belief among locals that the mansion was cursed. In the early 20th century, the town council, spurred on by mounting pressure from frightened residents, decided to take drastic action and rid the town of the ominous structure once and for all. A team of skilled demolition experts was hired. Armed with dynamite and heavy machinery, they descended upon the mansion with the intention of reducing it to rubble. However, as the demolition crew worked tirelessly to bring down the ancient walls of Blackwood Manor, they encountered obstacle after obstacle. Machinery malfunctioned without explanation, and attempts to ignite the dynamite were thwarted by inexplicable electrical failures. As the days turned into weeks, frustration turned to fear as members of the demolition team began to experience strange occurrences. Eerie whispers echoed through the empty halls, and shadows seemed to dance just beyond the reach of their flickering torches. Then, tragedy struck. In a catastrophic accident, a section of the mansion collapsed unexpectedly, burying several workers beneath tons of debris. Miraculously, some survived, but they emerged from the wreckage pale and trembling, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. The devastation wrought by the failed demolition only served to strengthen the belief that Blackwood Manor was cursed beyond redemption. From that day forward, the mansion stood untouched, a grim reminder of the darkness that lurked within its walls, and a warning to all who dared to challenge its malevolent presence. There were attempts to cleanse the space of the malevolent forces that plagued Blackwood Manor, but they were met with limited success and often ended in tragedy. Local priests and spiritual leaders were called upon to perform exorcisms and rituals aimed at purifying the mansion and freeing it from its cursed inhabitants. They wielded holy relics and recited prayers in an effort to banish the dark entities that lurked within the shadows. However, the forces that held sway over Blackwood Manor proved to be stubborn and resistant to such conventional methods of cleansing. The rituals would often provoke violent reactions from the spirits, manifesting in poltergeist activity and terrifying apparitions that left those present shaken to their core. In some instances, the priests themselves were driven to madness by the malevolent energies that permeated the mansion, their faith tested to its limits by the relentless onslaught of supernatural forces. Despite the best efforts of those who sought to cleanse Blackwood Manor, the curse remained firmly entrenched, its grip on the mansion and its unfortunate inhabitants unyielding. The darkness that dwelled within its walls seemed to feed off the fear and suffering of those who dared to challenge it, ensuring that Blackwood Manor remained a place of dread and despair for generations to come. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you want more, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching and sweet dreams.